Okay. Bismillah. All right, everyone. We're good. We're ready, inshallah. So welcome on behalf of Isna and Minna to our Ramadan Reflections with three amazing panelists from Muslim Youth of North America. My name is Salima Hajmajid. I sit on the Regional Executive Committee of the Mid-Atlantic region for Minna, and I'm very excited to be moderating your session for today. So I just want to welcome everyone. We're going to have a really interesting time today, inshallah. We're really excited to hear some reflections from our Minna leaders, learn from them, maybe gain some insight on different issues and topics that are going on right now. So this is a crazy time, right? Like this crazy time in our world and in our country, and Isna and Minna are doing a lot to help make this time a little bit more easy. So we have a lot of virtual programming from Isna and Minna both. We have lectures, classes, workshops, activities, so many amazing programs that you can find on both the Isna and the Minna website that we hope you all will check out after the session, inshallah. And something that is really important to us is connecting with all of you guys about the reality of the situation, and especially in Ramadan, the experience that we're all having, and how we can make the most of this. So we have three amazing panelists with us today, inshallah, from Muslim Youth of North America, our officers. And we're going to start, inshallah, with Norcia Hylian, who is our president. Noor was born and raised in Louisiana. She's been attending Minna camps and events ever since her first camp in 2012. She's the current president of Minna and previously served on the executive committee as program chair and on various event committees. She's currently studying business and intends to pursue a career that combines her interest in business and her passions for social change. In her free time, she loves to play and watch soccer, travel, and try her hand at cooking new foods. And she's going to be talking to us, inshallah, about her reflections on building a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Ramadan. So without further ado, Noor.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy in this time. I just hope to share, inshallah, for a couple minutes, just some of my reflections from Ramadan so far. Just being at home for so long definitely gives you some time to think. But inshallah, I'll get started. So it's about halfway through Ramadan, and I think this is a really good chance for us all to reflect on where we're at in our relationship with Allah, where we're at with just our personal growth and everywhere that we want to be, and also improve. So going from where we're at to where we want to be. And ultimately in Ramadan, a lot of our main goal is to make our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better. So my reflection really centers around this expectation that I think a lot of us had coming into the month, that just because it's Ramadan, all of a sudden we're going to have a relationship with Allah, or all of a sudden we're going to feel spiritual. And unfortunately, like that doesn't tend to be the case. Just because we're in Ramadan doesn't mean we can just, turn a light switch on and all of a sudden we've got that close bond. Everything is just perfect. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does make it easier for us in Ramadan. He opens his doors of mercy and forgiveness even more. But what's important to recognize, and what I hope to talk about today, is that we still have to put in the effort to achieve that. So where do we start? I want to start by just making a couple of things clear. One, when it comes to building this relationship, it's a process. It's not something that just happens immediately. So even if we don't feel that we're super close, or that we feel that sense of spirituality immediately when we worship, so in Ramadan especially, when we fast, when we make dua, when we pray, that's okay. And what's more important is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognizes that. He tells us in a hadith Qudsi that if my servant comes to me walking, I come to him running. That really shows us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to strive. He wants us to put in the effort, because that's where this relationship comes from. It comes from putting in the effort, and from putting in the effort, and hopefully that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to respond to that. Something else, and I think this is pretty relevant in this time especially, is that we have to be mentally there. We can't just go through the motions and expect something to come out of it. An example that I like to think of, because it's definitely something that I've done before, is whenever we put on like TV, for example, when we're doing work, or like when we're doing homework and we put on the TV, and the idea is that, oh, like this is just busy work, like it's just, I don't really have to think about it, so I can multitask. But what ends up happening a lot of the time is that we don't focus on either thing, and our mind is just kind of distracted. And when it comes to worship, we need our heart and mind to be in agreement, to be close to Allah. So our heart can't just want it, and especially in Ramadan, this is pretty relevant, that we really want to grow closer to Allah. We really want to build that relationship, but our heart can't just want it and us always be thinking about other things. So these other things could be things that we're doing often, that kind of distract us from worship, or they could be things that aren't super beneficial. They don't have to be things that are necessarily bad, but they could be things that, again, just like keep us distracted from what we're actually doing, and they keep our mind distracted. And these are the things that keep, like I said, they keep us distracted. But the payoff of letting these things go, or maybe just like lessening them in Ramadan, especially, is that relationship with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and that's more priceless than anything. I wanted to share like this example from one of the scholars in our past about what happens in difficult times. I would say, I think all of us could agree that this is a pretty unprecedented time. These times are pretty difficult on us mentally, emotionally, physically. But Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, a scholar from our past, he had this mentality that what could my enemies possibly do to me that wouldn't bring me closer to Allah? I think that's really, really, really beautiful, because it shows that when he underwent really tough times, or when he was tried, that like he knew that was going to bring him closer, and he to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he embraced that. And that's a lesson that a lot of us can take, is to use this quarantine, to use these difficult circumstances to elevate us and to make us grow. I'll just share a couple of things that I think we can embrace to kind of help us along this path, inshallah. And one, it starts with reflection. So the title of this webinar, Ramadan Reflections, but reflection is really important when it comes to building any relationship. We want to know, what are the things that we're thinking about more often than whoever we're trying to build a relationship with, right? We want to know, what are the things we love more than the person or the thing that we're trying to build a relationship with? And in this case, Allah. So what are the things, you can say to yourself, what are the things that I love more than God? What are what is somebody or something that's blocking me from worship? And by doing that, we'll know what's that distraction in the way, what's pulling us away from Allah. And if we never reflect, we're just never going to know. So that's why it's really important, and I wanted to bring it up. And the other thing is to be positive in our thoughts. I think right now, more than ever, there's so much negativity. Every time we open social media, every time we open up the news, there's another negative article. We are always hearing news about people that we know or family members maybe getting sick. So this negativity is floating around everywhere. But something that's really important is to stay positive in our thoughts when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A way that I like to think of it is, if Allah helped me yesterday, if He gave me health yesterday, if He kept me safe yesterday, and you can fill in the blank with anything, because there are so many things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does for us every single day. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped me yesterday, what makes me think that He's not going to help me today? What makes me think He's not going to help me on my path? He's not going to make it easier for me to build a relationship. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easier. He will meet us and make it easier for us to build that. So being patient and positive in our thoughts and thinking well of our Lord. And inshallah, I'll just close with some thoughts. One, it's okay to slip up. I'm speaking to myself and every youth and adult on this webinar. It's okay to slip up, as long as we don't drop the connection with Allah, as long as we don't completely give up. That's what's most important. And the other thing is that for all of us to remember that this idea of spirituality, it floats a lot. This word gets tossed around a lot, and it's pretty vague, but that feeling of being connected to Allah, it's a feeling, right? Like, it's not something you can achieve by just listening to a lecture or reading a book. These things help and they give you tips, like this one does, inshallah. But ultimately, your heart and your mind, they have to be sincerely seeking Allah. And when you seek Him, inshallah, you'll find that He's already there. Jazakallah khair. I hope that from that, there are some lessons that we all can take and use to implement this Ramadan, inshallah. So, Salim, I'll pass it back to you.
Jazakallahu khairan, Noor. I really learned a lot from your reflections, especially you talking about how we have to recenter our focus during this time to really connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as we can with this opportunity that we have to be with ourselves a little bit more. So thank you so much for that. So for our next speaker is Eka Diaz Aide, who was born and raised in Southern Maryland and attended his first MINA camp in 2016. He serves as the chair of MINA's Mid-Atlantic Regional Executive Committee. Currently, he's a freshman at the University of Maryland, majoring in psychology. In his free time, he enjoys playing sports and reading novels. And Zakaria is going to talk to us about what to be doing during quarantine and practical ways to improve ourselves. So I'll pass it on to you.
All right, assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good day, good morning. Halfway through Ramadan, I hope it's been one that's very beneficial for you. So today, inshallah, I'm going to be just giving my thoughts on, what are some things that we can do during this quarantine to kind of, I guess, keep ourselves sane, or, make sure we're not bored, or things like that. And the first point that I really want to touch on before I get into some of the actual practical things that we can do is your mindset. I think it's really important to kind of make sure that our mindset is staying positive, and we're not looking at this quarantine as something that, is such a Debbie Downer. Oh, I can't go outside. I can't, go visit my friends. I'm so bored in the house. I think, changing our mindset and actually looking at this quarantine, I guess, as something positive is the first step to kind of, getting on the right track, finding things to do and realizing that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us in this situation. So how do we make the best of it? And so the first part I want to talk about is kind of relating to family. So, we're all in the house, and we're with our families, and for me, I have 3 younger brothers, and one thing I'll say is, as Salima mentioned, I'm a freshman at college. When I went to college and I went to go dorm because I live on campus, even though I was only really about 45 minutes away from my house, I started to realize some of the little things that I used to take for granted when it came to my brothers. For instance, playing sports. In my family, sports is a big thing. But I realized, when I went to college, that was something that I really missed. Like, I missed going outside and playing basketball, with my little brothers. And it's something small, but it's something that I realized, and it's something that I've tried to, I guess, take advantage of now that we're kind of all in the house. And, we don't really have another place to go. And that's just, telling my little brothers, hey, let's go outside, let's play basketball. And so that's something that I want to encourage all of you to do. If there's something that your family likes to do together, take advantage of this time. Really, sit down and say, okay, my family, we like to play cards. Okay, tonight we're going to play this card game. Tomorrow we're going to play this card game. The day after that, we're going to play this card game. Or if your family is really artistic, maybe you guys can have an art competition. One of you draws, one of you paints, things like that. I say all of this to say that, this is like Nora said, it's a really unprecedented time. So I think having some things where we can take away from this and say, okay, during this unprecedented time, what did I do? Right? Did I complain about how I wanted to see my friends, or did I make it into something positive where I sat down with my family and, we had a good time because we're all here together, and it improved our relationship. The second thing that I really want to touch on is, I guess, some personal growth. Because we're all stuck, in the house, I think this is a really good time for us to try new things. I know for me personally, one thing that I've learned about myself is that I really like to color. Again, it's something very small, but it's something that I really discovered that it's not something that's hard to do. It's not something that takes a lot of effort, but it is something that relaxes me, and I've just been doing it a lot while I've been quarantining. And so I encourage all of you to make a list of 5 things that maybe you've always wanted to do, but you said, okay, I don't have the time, or I can't do it because X, Y, and Z. And now you have the time. And if you have the resources, I encourage all of you to actually try and go out and do those things, because you never know what you may find. You never know, you know, you may find your hidden talent. You may find your hobby that's going to elevate you to the next level. And so, yeah, I just encourage all of you to, I guess, go out, try new things, because really all we have is time. You know, inshallah, this you know, COVID-19 situation ends soon, but reality is, you know, none of us really know what's really going on, so we don't know when it's going to end. So all we really have is time. So I really encourage you to, you know, go out, find new things, try new things, and try them with your family if you can. You know, make it into something that you guys do together. And the last thing that I really want to talk about, and Nora kind of touched on it in her short reflections, but it's really, you know, your relationship with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. You know, we're here, you know, we're in quarantine. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, you know, gave us this situation in Ramadan, right? So what does that look like for us? You know, for me, this Ramadan has been very different than previous ones. But one thing that I will take away with it from it is that it really has given me time to reflect. It's given me time to, you know, reflect on everything from, you know, myself to my family to, you know, my deen, my relationship with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And I think that's really the only way that we can grow, is by reflection. Because if we don't think about, you know, who we are and what we're doing, how can we improve? And so I know Nora touched on it a little bit in her talk, but I just want to reiterate, you know, the power of reflection, the power of, you know, sitting down for whatever, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes a day, and just, you know, taking that time to really think and really think about yourself. Um, and I would encourage you all to, you know, take that time for yourself and really learn about yourself, learn about, you know, your relationship with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Think about it, contemplate how you can build on it, contemplate how you can improve on it, and then take those necessary steps. um so that's all I really have for mine. Jazakallah khair for listening. I hope you guys can take something away from this. And yeah, Jazakallah khair. Salima.
Jazakallahu khairan. I really resonated with a lot of the things you said, Zach, and I just want to emphasize that Minna specifically is putting on a lot of different workshops and online opportunities for you to build those skills and find new skills and find new interests. So I encourage you guys to check that out, the Minna website. You might find something that sparks an interest in you, and who knows, it might be your hidden talent, like Zach said. So last but not least, we're going to go on to Amani Hajmajin, inshallah. Amani is from the Northern Virginia area, where she attended her first Minna camp in 2013. Over 10 camps later, she currently holds the position of vice president for the organization and has been a part of Minna leadership for the past 4 years. She currently attends Virginia Commonwealth University, where she is studying cinema with the hopes of helping create films in the future. Right now, she enjoys biking, 80s rock and roll, and graphic design. And Amani is going to talk to us about coping with crisis. So without further ado, Amani.
Alaikum, guys. This is pretty crazy, really crazy time. Actually, my grandparents walked by Michael's. I don't know if Michael's is like everywhere in the world, but they had a sign up saying that they're out of sewing machines and puzzles, and that's pretty alarming because I don't think Michael's has ever been out of either of those. So it's definitely a pretty crazy time right now. And I really want to talk to you guys about coping with this crazy time. I think this is something that many people aren't paying that much attention to, and understanding that the most physical thing that we know that has changed is where we're allowed to go, people we could interact with, but there's a lot of internal things that everyone's really dealing with right now that people aren't really looking at as much. There's been a lot of articles and stuff coming out about especially people's sleep schedules. People have been either having really hard times falling asleep lately, sleeping too much, and a lot of this has to do with anxiety and people kind of being scared of coronavirus itself. This is something that I really advise people to start looking at and really identifying what your routines are right now, and seeing what things that are changing. You might not really realize that maybe your sleep schedule has started to change. I know it's Ramadan right now, but like your eating habits, like Are you eating the amount that you usually would? What are you doing throughout the day? Are you just waking up, staying on your computer or your phone the whole day, and then going back to sleep? These are small things that your body is trying to cope with this whole situation, and trying to find comfort for you. And I'm someone who definitely has trouble with coping with a lot of things. And I tend to go towards the more unhealthy aspects of sleeping in a lot, or maybe just staying on my computer. There's so many good movies on Netflix now, like all three Back to the Futures are on Netflix. Like there's a lot of distractions, and a lot of ways that you can just submerge yourself into literally just staying in one room for multiple days. Our whole schedules are flipped upside down. I know that a lot of people are still in school or are ending school soon, and your school schedule has been upside down. And then as soon as school is gone, what are you going to do? You don't have school to fill in your time. So you want to try to stay productive. One of the most damaging things that you can do in this isolation is isolate yourself even more. How I kind of see it is right now you're in a box. Literally you're in your house. But your brain is also a box too. If you check out of your head as well, and you check out of all those elements, this is going to feel a lot longer than it really is. Zach and Noor gave a lot of great suggestions of not only how to, I guess, interact with yourself, but also interact with others. We have a blessing of having, internet. And if you don't have the internet, hopefully you have people at home with you that you can talk to, you can make connections with. I have 4 sisters, and I definitely know how crazy family can get, and especially in this time. It can be hard, especially someone who has been living in college for a whole year, being back home with my whole family. But it honestly is a blessing. And I've heard a lot of people who have been complaining, especially college students on social media and stuff of, I wish I was with my friends. I hate being stuck at home with my family. My family's driving me crazy. I want to eat food from outside. I don't want to eat food from home. I want to get out of here. But we really need to be reflecting right now on the blessings that we have. Not only, alhamdulillah, are most of us still very healthy, and most of us aren't dealing with the actual disease. We're dealing with hearing about it and the safety precautions. But aside from just Corona itself being harmful and affecting people, there's a lot of people when it comes to this stay-at-home order that is really difficult. I actually have a friend from college who doesn't really have a family to go back to. Their parents, their father was abusive. Their mother is not someone who treats them well. And so at this time, he's actually staying at another friend's house for this whole time period. Like another family took them in and was like, you can stay with us for this whole time. And that's where he's been staying. Which alhamdulillah, it's so good that he had a place to go to, but he didn't have a family to go back to in the first place. So this is really a time that, like, especially being at home, I've been reflecting on how happy I am that I have a family that I have a good connection with, that I have friends that I can reach out to and stuff like that, because there are some people who don't even have that. So if you're ever dealing, just a slight dip in morale, just feeling like you can't do anything, just think about the people who don't have what you have. And when you reflect like that and you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what you have, you can feel a sense of relief that is not as hard as it could be. And that Allah is testing you, but he's testing you only in an amount that you can handle. And so I think that's a really, really big thing, especially with just coping with this whole scenario. Mental health is definitely something that's affecting everyone now, worldwide. Like, we're all in this together, literally. And people who might not have personally dealt with mental health issues or anything, you don't need to be diagnosed with anything to be dealing with issues right now. You can have depressive episodes, a lot of anxiety comes with this whole pandemic and stuff like that. And you want to make sure that you're acknowledging that and you're treating it in the way that needs to be treated. So that might be going to your parents saying, hey mama, hey baba, I just need some time alone today. Like, I'm really not feeling good. I just don't want anyone to really talk to me for like an hour. Let me just like collect myself and I'll be good. If you let your family be aware of, you know, what's going on with you inside, it's going to help you in the long run to improve yourself and be able to really withstand this whole period. I know that you can't go outside right now, but something that I like to do is go on drives. I can drive. If you can't drive, you can always ask a parent, can we just like drive around the block, or maybe drive by my school, or just go up and down the street. Just having some fresh air can definitely be really rejuvenating, even after just like a couple minutes. Something that I would really suggest. Yeah. I think that this whole time has definitely been a worldwide reflection on how we live our lives. There's so many stories and so much to just like sink your teeth in, from like news articles to like celebrities talking about how upsetting it is to live in their big houses, to like a lot of crazy things that you can definitely be sucked into it all. And I think something that comes with the news and stuff of Corona is it will build up your anxiety. For instance, if there's like been an announcement that I don't know, like a celebrity got Corona, like an article can make it sound like they're dying, like this is like intense and scary, and the news articles will magnify that. Something that I've been doing like the past couple days, I haven't been looking at any news about Corona and just been focusing on what's happening here with myself. You don't once you take that news part away, it's not as scary, you know. And I think right now, that's when you don't have a lot of answers, people go on the internet to find the answers. That's not a really good way of coping, because that's definitely going to spike your anxiety and spike how you're feeling about this whole situation. And while I say that, the other thing you don't want to do is completely forget about it and not care at all. And don't be one of those people who are like, I'm not sick. I haven't seen anyone around me be sick. I'm going to go outside. It doesn't matter. You still want to make sure you're taking the precautions to keep yourself safe and other people safe. But also making sure that you're taking time for yourself. So I guess that's really all I had to say. Please, in the next couple days, especially just like Ramadan is the perfect time to just reflect on yourself and what you're doing. Are you making all your 5 prayers? That can always be a good escape from whatever like black hole you're sucking yourself into, you know. A quick prayer, just a quick sunnah prayer, can really jump you back into what you want to be doing in this time. If you're trying to read a good book, if you're trying to write, if you're trying to draw, if you're trying to do something with yourself, prayer is such a blessing at this time because it breaks apart our day. And I really suggest that that's something that you should really be thinking about. And tuning into things like this, tuning into lectures, there's so many things, like take a break from Netflix, from YouTube, and just like turn on a lecture. And so you can still be on your computer in your bed, but you're benefiting a lot better. And so, yeah, inshallah, I hope everyone is staying safe throughout these hard times, and taking care of yourselves, and Ramadan Mubarak.
Jazakallahu khairan, Imani, for all of those great reminders and reflections. I think it's super important that we remember to really use this time to the best of our ability, to better ourselves, better our relationships with our family and our friends, but most of all, better our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So thank you all for all of your amazing reflections. We're going to do a short little panel, kind of questionnaire type thing. Okay, so the first question really connects to what Imani was just talking about. You guys talked a lot about different ways to cope during quarantine and the importance of coping in healthy ways. What are some things you all are doing to cope during quarantine?
I can go first, inshallah. So something that I've been doing just to keep myself a little bit sane, because I'm one of those people who, alhamdulillah, finished school, but that also means that my time is not as occupied by structure as I would have wanted it to. Um, but I'll try to do like one thing with my family every day. So sometimes like I'll go on walks with my dad, which I was never a person who goes on walks before this. I know it's like a huge meme that like everybody's all of a sudden going on walks, but it is nice to get out of the house and get some air. So that's like one thing I try to do. If it's not going on walks, maybe it's just like sitting with my brothers, or popping into like my sister's room and just having a conversation. And then spiritually, something that I've been trying to do is, so like those couple of minutes right before Maghrib, where we're about to like break our fast, everybody's like in the kitchen going crazy, like setting the table and everything. I'll set aside like 2 minutes. I'll just run to my room, and make like a quick dua, because I think it's like a great time to just recenter myself, refocus, and really remind myself like why I fasted this whole day, why it was so difficult. And yeah, those are just some things that I'm trying to do to keep myself sane during this time.
I can go next. I definitely have been embarking on a Disney Plus journey. I've been watching every single animated like Disney princess movie, all like the old animated movies. Like, I don't know, they just make me feel happy. And it's stuff like I feel like I've watched Aladdin, both Aladdins, at least 10 times in the past 2 weeks, not even kidding you. So maybe that's not the best way to cope, but definitely it's fun. I have been trying to stay active, so I have been doing a lot of workouts at home. I think it's a really good time to do that. And spiritually, I was never a really big sunnah praying girl, especially throughout the school day. Like if it's in between class, I only have time to quickly pray dhuhr, but I don't have time to pray like the sunnahs that go with dhuhr. And being at home, having that time, I've been putting a lot more effort into making sure that I'm praying a lot more, and taking up the extra time to complete sunnah and some nice du'as after prayer. And that has been honestly like really helpful. Awesome.
For me, I know I kind of mentioned it during my talk, but coloring, yeah, coloring. Like for me, it's really just a way for me to like get off of like all of my electronics, just so I'm not like on my phone and on my computer all day, every day. And so like I just take whatever 30, 45 minutes to do that. And alhamdulillah, my coloring book is starting to get full. So I'm very proud of myself for that. And then as far as spiritually, um, I think taking time after Fajr is something that I've done to kind of just, whether it be reflection, reading Quran, picking up a Surah book, like that time after Fajr, like even though, because I'll admit that I stay awake throughout the whole night, even though I'm feeling kind of tired, I'm also feel like the most awake right after Fajr. So it's like time where I guess like I'm most spiritually connected with myself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I would advise that for you guys. Maybe just take some time, whether it be 5-10 minutes right after Fajr, and just reflect or read some Quran or something like that.
Amazing. Thank you guys. So I'm gonna ask you guys one more question. Just keeping in mind the time. We talked a lot about different tips for youth, especially during this time, but what advice would you guys give to parents with youth going through this whole experience?
Something that I guess I'll start with a little bit of reflection. Something that I've noticed, even among like people I know who are especially like still in high school, middle school, even like my college friends, is that it's very easy to become, while you're still with your family, it's still very easy to be disconnected, like Amani talked about, and to isolate yourself more and to stay in your room and to just focus on texting your friends or things like that. So something I would say for parents is to try to find at least like a couple times in the week. Maybe it's not every day, but a couple of times in the week where you and your whole family do something together. At least like for my family, it's very simple. Like we have meals and we pray together. But those times in the day, at least like we know that we're all together, we can have a conversation, and then everybody might go back to like what they were doing before, but at least you have that sort of consistency and that sort of keeping your youth engaged with the family, because that's very, very important in this time so that they don't isolate themselves. So that's just something from my experience that I would share.
Something I would say is to give your kids some space. As sometimes I think, especially now being at home, there's even stories like my sister was talking to me about, like professors at her college who as soon as schools went online have been putting more work into the hands of students, saying you're at home, you're not doing anything, you have more time, which is the complete opposite. It's, yeah, we're not walking to our classes, or we're not out hanging out with friends, but the thought of this whole situation is really difficult. And so to sometimes just give your kids some space, and let them find ways to cope. Checking in on them always, but if you ever use the words you're not doing anything, like hurry up and fill in your time, can actually be more stressful for people in this situation than helpful. So just keep in mind that aspect.
For me, one thing that I think helps, and one thing that I've kind of seen my dad doing, is like really starting to engage with us in the things that we're passionate about. So like with my little brothers, for instance, that's, video games. So like he'll come down and he'll play video games with us. But like for someone like me who's older, we kind of sit down and we have talks about, the books that I'm reading and things like that. So because I think for us as children, like, or at least for me, I'll speak for myself, like it really like gives me like, I don't know, it makes me feel good, like when my parents are like interested and want to talk about the things that I'm interested in. So that would be one thing that I would say to parents: just try and make sure that you're, I guess, showing interest in the things that your kids care about.
Yeah, for sure. Those are all really, sure, really helpful insights for sure. So I just want to thank you guys again so much for taking the time to do this today and sharing your reflections and your tips and your suggestions for how we can all make the most of this time. I just want to reiterate that it is a really tough time, but one alternate way to look at it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally stopped our world and had us all take a second, or more than a second, to really connect internally and connect with the people around us. The most of all, connect with Him. And so this is tough, but it's also an opportunity that we shouldn't waste. And so I encourage you guys to take all of the info that was given to us and all the suggestions that were given to us by our panelists. And once again, I also encourage you to really try and get involved with ISNA and try and get involved with Minna and our programming right now, because we want to stay together during this time. We're all isolated, but we can really come together. This is something that's uniting all of us. We're all going through this experience. And we want to make the most of it. And we want it to be as beneficial as possible at Minna, from the Minna side and the ISNA side. And so we encourage you guys to connect with us through all of those amazing platforms. Inshallah, we'll see you guys soon on other programming, and we hope everyone stays safe, stays healthy, has an amazing Ramadan, an amazing Eid, and yeah, we hope everyone does stay happy, stay healthy. Inshallah, and we're all making dua for everyone during this time.